There was 3 people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what I... That's what I run.
Emotional testimony in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial as the defendant, as you saw, takes the seat at the witness stand. Fox 6 Investigator Bryan Polcyn joining us now. He's been watching the trial very closely.
Bryan joins us now. Bryan, how surprised were you to see the defense put Kyle Rittenhouse on the stand today?
I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. I mean, the defense telegraphed in its openings that this would be coming, but it's still a potentially risky move. I mean, first of all, most criminal defendants don't testify on their own behalf. They have a constitutional right to remain silent. Jury can't hold it against them. Plus, many observers of this case over the past week have felt the prosecution, some of their witnesses may have actually helped make the case's defense that this was self-defense. So putting him on the stand, certainly risky. It opens him up to a lengthy cross-examination, which we have seen going on all afternoon. It continues right now. Now, the defense may well have wanted the jury to see what we just saw, that emotional outburst from Kyle Rittenhouse as he described for the first time the moment when he shot Joseph Rosenbaum. Other than that moment, which did prompt the judge to call for a 10-minute recess, he's been relatively calm and composed throughout the rest of the questioning from both attorneys.
And Bryan, at one point today, the judge sent the jury out of the room, and yelled. We saw that exchange a little bit ago at the assistant DA for his line of questioning. I mean, he was really, really angry. What was that all about?
So when he does that, if you go back to before the trial, the judge made a number of important rulings about what could or couldn't be introduced as evidence. And one of those things was a video from 15 days before the shootings in Kenosha when Kyle Rittenhouse was caught on video talking about what he thought were a couple of people who were shoplifting from a pharmacy. And he made a comment to the effect of, "I wish I had my AR so I could shoot them." The judge had already ruled that that was not admissible evidence. So when the assistant district attorney started asking questions about that or that were leading up to that, the judge cut him off, sent the jury out of the room, and as you've seen and heard, loudly admonished him.
Yeah, yelled at him pretty hard there. And that makes things interesting because, Bryan, after the lunch break, the defense asked the judge to declare a mistrial. What was that based on?
Not just that, but one other thing that had occurred prior. The judge admonished the assistant district attorney a couple of times today. Another line of questioning, he was asking about whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse had spoken up before today or why he hadn't given a statement prior to today. Well, as I said, defendants have a right, constitutional right, not to speak, to remain silent. And the judge said that's established law. He was very upset about this. So the defense asked for a mistrial with prejudice, which is very important because if the judge rules in their favor, it would mean that not only would this case end, but it could not be retried. The judge did not make a ruling. He took it under advisement, and testimony continues as we speak.
Bryan, the prosecutor asked a number of questions about Rittenhouse's age. He was 17, of course, when this happened, 18 now. Why is that so important?
Well, the prosecutor asked that question, first of all, because Kyle was not old enough to buy a firearm in Wisconsin. He had a friend who bought that firearm for him, the one he ended up using that night. He also pointed out that he had said to people that night he was an EMT. He's not an EMT. He was in training for that. The state is trying to paint a picture of this being a young man who was spoiling for a confrontation, looking for a reason to pull the trigger. It remains to be seen if the jury will agree with that.
Bryan Polcyn, we appreciate your time. Interesting day in court for sure. Hey,